Hey everyone, this is Aladdin here at the Chase DA Sports Handicapping YouTube channel. Back here with another video with UFC 311. Gonna say a quick sorry for the Nick Kyrgios pick. Not sure what happened with him there. I think he was just washed at this point. I think he should retire. But moving on from tennis, did have two good underdogs. Follow my Twitter. That's where I post all the plays, by the way. But jumping straight into this, I'm only going to do the prelim card, not going to do the early prelims. First fight is Grant Dawson versus Diego Ferreira. I'm going to go with Grant Dawson here. He's minus 250. Diego, he has good grappling, and he starts out a lot of these fights strong. That's what I've noticed when I was watching him. Could be a back-and-forth fight, I think. Dawson's only UFC loss was I think it was a fluke. It was literally a 30-second knockout to Bobby Green. He was like minus 500 and just got punched like literally once and the fight ended. But I don't think that will happen here. I think Dawson, he has really, really good wrestling. So I think if he gets on top, he should just be able to just hold him there and potentially even get a ground and pound TKO. Probably second or third round, I would think. He also, like I mentioned, he's 9 years younger. I think he's just UFC. I just don't know how this guy isn't ranked, especially over BSD, Benoit St. Denis. Hate that guy. Really bad at MMA. He got exposed by Poirier and Moicano. But moving on, I'm going to go with Dawson by late TKO. Next fight, we got Bogdan Guskov versus Billy Elkana. Short notice fight here. It was supposed to be Guskov versus Walker. But Walker, I don't know what happened to him. He slipped on a banana peel or something like that. That guy is so injury prone, I swear. But he's minus 350. And one bet I did like on Bovada, you probably even get better odds for this, but it's a heavyweight fight basically. And I just don't know how this guy doesn't win by knockout against a short notice opponent. This guy's like on like a week's notice. I think less than that. I think it was like minus 150 for him to win by knockout. So I would definitely get on that before it moves, because that definitely seems like free money. Moving on, not much talk on that one. Jailton Almeida versus the polar bear, Sergey Spivak. I know Almeida, he's 4 years older, but they have him at minus 500. I just think he's way better basically everywhere in this fight. He won't be heavier, but he will be way faster, way more power in his hands, and just way more in his arsenal to finish this fight. I think Spivak is pretty much just a gatekeeper at this point. Like, if you're a heavyweight that can move fast, that can strike, and can grapple, basically you should be able to beat this guy 99 out of 100 times. The guys who can't beat Spivak are like the fat blob kind of guys, like kind of like Tafa or trying to, you know, the type of guys I'm thinking about. Just like they just swing and bang. They're fun to watch, but not much of their skill set. And Almeida just has way more tools that he could use to finish the fight than Spivak does. Somehow if Spivak does win this fight, I think it'll probably be like some sort of boring decision where Almeida just like was gun shy and he couldn't pull the trigger. But I don't see that happening. I think Almeida wins pretty early in this fight. I think they had the over-under, at 1.5 at Pick'em. I think under is probably the play. I think it's going to end pretty quick. Not much to say on that one either. Moving on, the feature prelim. They got Peyton Talbot. He's undefeated versus Raoni Barcelos. 11 years younger. Basically, it's the young being, the old being fed to the young. He has a 4.5-inch reach advantage. I just don't see any universe where this Barcelos wins. Basically, it would be like the sun exploding. I think what I did see is Talbot by sub was plus 750. I saw him by knockout was minus 190. Kind of too juicy. I wouldn't take the odds on that. But I think by sub or by submission possibly could be a play, because I think, like I mentioned, submission was plus 750. And then decision was like plus 350. So if you put like the same amount on each one and one of them hits, you'll profit. So I think that might not be a bad play, because I mean he's minus 1200. It's kind of hard to bet a massive favorite like that. Moving on to the main card, first fight is Kevin Holland versus RDR. I'm going to go with RDR here. It's just like I just don't know how you could be picking Kevin Holland in 2025, especially after that last performance against MVP, aka Milk Dud. I mean, that was just what was that, Kevin Holland? That was so bad. I mean, he was just MVP was literally just playing with him by the third round, and Holland was just like basically accepting the loss. It was really, really bad, honestly. I think it was arguably his worst performance. I mean, you could say Hamzat, but that guy's just a killer. And MVP was way older than him, obviously from Bellator. So you would think UFC would be like, oh, we're the best. Bringing in this Bellator guy, we should easily beat him. Nope. Kevin Holland easily got dominated. And one thing I will say is RDR, his last fight, a lot of people were shitting on him because, like, oh, it was a back and forth fight with GM3. GM3 is old, and he should have easily finished him. And RDR did finish him. He finished him in the third round. And Kevin Holland went to a split decision with him. I think that was like 3 or 4 years ago now, but still, MMA math, I guess. I hate using that term, but I would say RDR will win this fight, probably by decision or maybe a late submission. I could just see Kevin Holland maybe even winning the first round, maybe looking good on the feet, but then just doing something stupid like taunting or just, I don't know, just trying to go to the ground when he shouldn't. And then RDR gets on top of him and just starts laying ground and pound or goes for a submission. So I'm going to go with RDR in this one. It's a pick'em, so basically even. That's what the bookies have it. But I'm going to go with Reiner de Ritter. Moving on, we have Money Moicano versus Beneil Dariush. I can't speak. I just know this Dariush is getting finished. I'm sorry. It's just, I don't know. I saw this one guy like saying like, oh, they're the same age and they've both taken the same amount of damage. Like, okay, I could agree with that. Makes sense. But Dariush's last 2 losses were by brutal knockout. Literally brutal knockout. While Moicano, he's won his last 4 fights. 2 of them by pretty solid knockout, especially the BSD fight. Looked really, really good in that fight. I just think Dariush, his motivation too, you got to question that. I was seeing videos where he's like, yeah, this might be my last fight. Don't really know what I'm fighting for anymore because like, there's no way this guy's going to fight for a belt again. I'm sorry. But I would take Moicano. He's minus 160. I don't know. Like I feel like he should be a higher favorite, like minus 220 or more. It just seems like kind of like a rat line. But I'm going to have to go with Moicano on this. I just feel so dumb if I pick Dariush, and then he just gets knocked out in the first round again. So I'm going to go with Moicano probably by, I think maybe it'll just be a back and forth, maybe a little bit of a war, but then he pulls away at the end. So maybe Moicano by decision. But I do think he could win inside the distance, which is plus 185, which is a solid bet, I think. Moving on, we got Euro. Dude, this is like one of my favorite guys. I love Euro, and I hate Jamal. Jamal Hill is just, he's really awkward. He's just been trying to play this whole heel role since he got knocked out by Poatan. And obviously both these guys have gotten knocked out by him. But I just think one thing I will say is Yuri, he's way more unorthodox, and he has way more power than Jamal. So I think early on in the fight, if Yuri catches him, he'll just finish him quick, like 1 or 2 punches and it's over. But if Jamal, if he could survive, first I would say 7.5 minutes, so round and a half, he will win this fight without a doubt. Like I just see it in my mind. Like he'll just grind it out, kind of like he did against Glover. I think Yuri really does need a finish early. I saw Yuri, he was plus 185 by KO, but by round 1 KO, it's like plus 425. So I think that's a pretty solid bet. Basically him to finish in the first 5 minutes. I think that will definitely he'll have opportunities, that's for sure, the way he fights. His defense is just super, super questionable. So you always have to be careful betting on this guy because it's just like, when is he going to get like clipped, or is he just not even going to use any head movement? And my reason for first round KO is because out of his 30 wins, 27 of them are by first round KO. That's honestly insane. I don't know if you'll ever see a stat like that again. But yeah, I just think both these guys, they're Poetan's son. So I don't know. Like I mentioned, if it goes more than 7.5 minutes, Jamal Hill is definitely going to win. But if it's under that, I think Yuri will knock him out. Plain and simple. But I'm riding with Yuri. These last two fights kind of can combine in two. So both these guys, Merab and Arman, they're pretty sizable underdogs. Merab, he's plus 230, and Arman, he's plus 265. I really do think one of these underdogs will win. Not sure which one, but one of them will. So I think if you put the same amount on each one, you will profit at the end of the night. I'm kind of leaning more towards Merab. I don't know, he's 34 years old versus 29-year-old Umar. Umar's undefeated. He has Khabib in his corner. Probably has better wrestling, but we probably won't know until we see him face-to-face in the cage. And then with Islam versus Sarukian, they've already fought once, but it was like 3 or 4 years ago. I saw Makhachev as high as like minus 400, but the odds are dropping on him. I think Arman, man, he's looked really good in his last few fights, and I think if he could at least like stop the takedowns and at least just keep it on the feet striking, I think he will at least win a round or two. I'm not saying he's going to win the fight, but I think he could be very close to maybe snagging a split decision. I don't know if he'll catch Islam. Islam's striking has looked really good in his last few fights, so I don't know if he'll even want to bang with him. It's going to be a really interesting fight. I think under plus 135 could be a move, though. I think someone will get finished in that fight. This one will probably go over. Both these guys are pretty much just wrestlers all around. They're not going to, especially Merab, that guy never goes for finishes. I'd love to see a finish in that one, but I do think at the end of the day, you get on one of these two underdogs and they're going to win. Everyone is touting Islam and Umar like they're just going to be like the easiest locks of the card. I just can't see that in my mind. I just really do think one of them will lose. Maybe not by finish, but at least one will lose. So those are my picks for the card. Kind of off the cuff, but I do think another solid bet I was seeing was this one up here, Ricky Tercios. Don't know how SoPi is minus 300. He got one of the most brutal knockouts of last year. He got flying kneed with 1 second left. So really don't know how he's minus 280 over anyone. Ricky's also really unorthodox, pretty good striking too. So I think he's a good dog. But that's going to end the video. Thank you guys so much, and have a good night.